Hey Luma, let me show you how to knit the flower scrubby with a strap on the back to make it easier for you to scrub. And this is actually not a color change right here. It is done using striped yarn, and your label will say that it's striped. Don't get this confused with variegated yarn that you can also use, or even just use one color. If you stay till the end, I will show you how to make it scrubbier by adding this one layer of extra yarn. And for a list of supplies and more information, be sure to visit the website. Alright, let's get started. So secure your yarn to the anchor peg, and I'm using a simple knot. You can use a slip knot if you're more comfortable. Do not use the first peg, and we're going to cast on all 36 pegs using the drawstring cast on. So take your yarn and you're going to zigzag through every other peg until you've done all 36 of them. When you get to peg 1, you're going to take the working yarn and go behind peg 1, lay it loosely over the next few pegs, and with your hook you're going to knit off every peg that has 2 loops. And if you pay close attention, you'll see that that's every other peg. When you're ready to knit off peg 36, you'll notice that one has no loop. So you're going to take the yarn and lay it loosely over peg 36, 1 and 2. Knit off 36 to complete your cast on, and now you're ready for rows 1 through 15, where you're going to knit all 36 pegs. Remember, you skipped peg 1, but only on row 1. So now we start knitting from peg 2 using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. So everybody has a loop now. We skipped 1 and we knit 2 using the U-wrap. So you half wrap and knit off. That's how you do the U-wrap. Half wrap, knit off. Keep going. You're going to do all 36 pegs from now on, and you need 15 rows in total. Alright, that's the end of row 1, and then with the beginning of row 2 you knit peg 1 and continue the row. Don't forget to take the knot off the anchor peg after a few rows, and then you just can continue knitting because you've got 15 rows to knit, so keep knitting. Once you finish those 15 rows of knits, you're ready for row 16, and now all you're going to do is purl all your 36 pegs. So to purl, put the yarn underneath the existing loop with the hook, come from the top, scoop up the working yarn, create a new loop, take the old loop off the peg, and you can use your hook, put the new loop on the peg. And then you're going to take the working yarn and you're going to pull on it to tighten that loop. And this is cotton, that can sometimes be a little tricky, so let me show you one more time. With your hook, you're going to scoop up and create a new loop and take the old one off. I'm using my hook because I'm having a hard time, but you don't have to. And remember that you're going to do this purl stitch for all 36 pegs on this row, which is row 16. Once you finish this row, you're ready now for row 17, which is super easy. You're just gonna knit the row. So knit all 36 pegs, and you guys already know how to do this because you're experts. So next, you're just going to repeat those last 2 rows. So row 18, you purl 36, and row 19, you knit 36, and then your last row is a row of purls. So purl 36 pegs. Now you're ready to cast off, and we're going to be using the drawstring cast off, which is super easy. So just take your yarn and you're going to wrap it around your loom, at least 1 and a little bit. Then get your scissors and cut the working yarn, and then with your hook from the top, you're going to scoop up and feed the yarn through each and every one of the 36 loops in this project. Make sure all of them have yarn, and then with the hook you can take the loops off the pegs, and you are done knitting. Now take your fabric and stretch those stitches. This is very important, otherwise your knitting is going to look really funky, so make sure you stretch those stitches really good. Then pull on the drawstrings, and you might have to help by pulling on the drawstring really tight, and maybe even pulling on some of the loops themselves to kind of help it out. Again, it's cotton, 100% cotton, and sometimes cotton is just not flexible. So you have to pull really good, but not so much that you break your yarn. You really don't want to break your yarn right here, okay? So I had to mess with it for a little bit to get it to work right. Do the same on the other side, and just pull. Don't worry that it doesn't close 100%, because we're going to take a needle and thread that tail. With the needle, I'm going to use iron metal. You can use whatever needle you have. These just work better. And as you can see, I skip a few loops and pull on the drawstring as I sew in a circular manner. So I grab a few loops with the needle. I feed the yarn through, and I'm doing the same thing on the back side. I'm going to thread my needle and then feed it through a couple of loops on the back, just like I did on the front, skipping a few of them because this helps to close that little hole up. And it doesn't have to be 100% closed, but as tightly as you can. I did get it to completely close, and then I just basically cut the excess yarn. If you've gone around several times, you don't have to worry about it. It's not going to come out. I basically just pull on it and cut, or you can take it to the other side and just to secure a little better so it doesn't puff up, and then just when you feel comfortable, you could go ahead and cut the excess yarn, and this part is done. You don't have to do the next part, but if you want to make a strap, you need to cast on 10 pegs. So we're doing the drawstring cast on again. Go ahead and secure your yarn to the anchor peg, not peg 1, and then zigzag the yarn all the way to 10 pegs and turn around. And you see I do like a little figure 8 to help me turn around. And then place the yarn loosely over a few and knit off the pegs that have 2 loops. We're going to be knitting flat, so that's why we turned around. And yes, so for rows 1 through 15, you're going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 6, purl 1, knit 1. So just like when we were knitting before, you are going to skip peg 1 because it didn't per se have a loop, right? You turned around, and now you're going to skip 1 only on row 1. And so we start on peg 2 and then do the 6 knit stitches, purl 1, knit 1. Alright, so let's start. We're going to purl because we're starting on peg 2. We skipped peg 1 only on row 1. We're going to knit those 6 stitches right? And still using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. And the 9th we're going to purl, and peg 10 we're going to knit. And now you're going to turn around because we're knitting flat and do that 10 stitch pattern again. This time you are going to knit peg 1, because remember, you only skip peg 1 on row 1. Then you knit the 10 stitch pattern completely for 15 rows in total. Don't forget to take the knot off the anchor peg, and then you're just going to continue to knit. Once you finish those 15 rows, take the yarn, stretch it over 11, cut, and just like before, you're going to scoop it and feed it through all of your 10 pegs so that you can cast off using, again, that drawstring cast off. And once you have fed through all 10 pegs, you can, with your hook, remove all of the loops from the pegs, free your fabric, go ahead and stretch it out just like you did before, and pull on those drawstrings until you create like a little curve on each end. And you'll see that once you stretch it out, now you can just go ahead and sew it to the back part of your scrubby using a metal or any kind of needle, and the same leftover long tail from each end. So as you can see, all I'm doing is going through those loops on the edge and sewing. Then the same way I did this, you're going to do the other side, and basically your strap is attached. Cut the excess yarn and your scrubby is done. So I promised to show you how to add the extra scrubby yarn to your project, and here goes. You're knitting the same pattern, so knit 15 rows, and then we're going to add the scrubby yarn. It's 1 strand. You make a slip knot, and you're going to place that slip knot on peg 36, not 1, 36. So place it there, tighten it up, and you're going to knit off, and it is pretty secure there. So we're going to bring the yarn over and knit peg 36, and now you're knitting with 2 strands as one, and you're going to start knitting the rest of the pattern. You already know how to knit rows 16 through 20. You're doing the same thing, right? You are going to knit a row of purls because that is row 16, and if you need to know the rest of the pattern, just go back. All you're knitting is rows 16 through 20 exactly like you did in the previous pattern. Do the pattern knitting with 2 strands as one. Alright, these scrubbies are awesome. They make great gifts. I hope you like them as much as I do, and I will see you next time when you come back and loom with me.